Thank you so much, Dr. Bhavneet, for coming and joining us on the Goenka Alpha Edge podcast. I'm so grateful to you. A lot of people know about adoption, but nobody has heard foster parent here.
I am a pediatrician. I was working with children who have adverse childhood experiences, and even I've been associated with nearly 100 adoptions. And maybe I still have some energy, and maybe I can make a difference to some child.
Right.
So that's the time I actually applied for fostering.
Do you think it's very complicated, which is why people don't opt for it? The process is very complicated?
Not very complicated, but you have to have the right mental frame.
Right. Before that, I want you to tell people what marginalized children are actually.
Whenever the children they have some psychosocial adversities. The children who get adopted are the ones who are legally free.
Are marginalized children more prone to exploitation?
I think yes.
Not every child who struggles is difficult. Some are carrying stories they don't yet have words for. Hi, I am Harman Sidhu, Academic Director and Head of Communications at GD Goenka Mohali. Welcome to Goenka Alpha Edge. Today we speak about special children, traumatized children, and those living on the margins, children whose behavior is often misunderstood but whose needs are deeply human. To help us understand how trauma, differences, and exclusion shapes a child's world and how adults can respond with empathy and wisdom, we are joined by Dr. Bhavneet. This is a conversation about seeing children before labeling them and choosing compassion where judgment once stood. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhavneet, for coming and joining us on the Goenka Alpha Edge podcast. I'm so grateful to you. I'm going to start with telling our audience and everybody who's listening to this that you're the first foster parent in Chandigarh. Now, a lot of people know about adoption, but thanks to social media and Hollywood, Netflix, everybody knows what a foster parent is, but nobody has heard, neither me, has heard of a foster parent here. How did that happen?
What I can tell you is that I am a pediatrician, and I was working with children who have adverse childhood experiences, and even I've been associated with nearly 100 adoptions.
Beautiful.
And while the children who get adopted are the ones who are legally free. And during these times, I was actually watching their journeys getting transformed after
Right.
adoption.
Right.
So I could feel how much it can mean to a child to have a family.
True.
However, in that small subset, there are children who were not legally free, or there were some issues.
Right.
They could not get adopted, and they were staying in the childcare institutions.
Right.
And 2016, the government of India had these guidelines, these foster guidelines, and that's the time my daughter, at that time, she had already completed her high school. In fact, she was a medical student at that time.
Lovely.
And I thought my parenting job is done, and maybe I still have some energy, and maybe I can make a difference to some child.
Right.
So that's the time I actually applied for fostering.
Right.
And in fostering, children more than age 6 years who are not legally free,
Right.
so they are the ones who are actually eligible for fostering.
Right.
And I applied for it. The Child Welfare Committee actually
Agreed.
accepted
How
it.
lucky.
It had a long journey because
Right.
all the paperwork had to
Do
be
you
done.
think it's very complicated, which is why people don't opt for it? The process is very complicated?
Not very complicated, but you have to have the right mental frame.
Right.
Because what you need to understand is these children whom we are going to take,
Right.
we must understand their behaviors. It's going to be
Absolutely.
difficult.
Absolutely.
So the parents have to be prepared.
Right.
And I think I had an advantage because I was a pediatrician
Absolutely.
and working with children who have had ACEs. So
Right.
that worked in my favor.
Right.
And a supporting family, of course.
That gave you the courage to go ahead
Yeah.
and do it.
Yeah.
For anybody else, it would be a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe, fostering is something that nobody talks about really, you
Yeah.
know. Usually it is always just adoption.
Yeah.
But do you think it's easier to foster?
No.
No.
No. Actually, I had many of my adoptive parents who were my friends. I always feel we need help.
Right.
And I need help from family, from teachers, from
Right.
society
Absolutely.
to think about these children in a
Right.
more kind manner.
True.
So that's the reason.
Absolutely.
And even although I knew many things, I required help. I took help of my friends who were, all of them, these were the group of these Kara subcommittee. My friends were there.
Right.
So they were all adoptive mothers and they had reared maybe two adoptive children and seen through their whole life. So they were great help for me during that
Right.
initial 2 years. After that, things settled.
Settled.
Yeah.
That's so lovely. So, when we speak about traumatized or marginalized children, what is the one misunderstanding that society most often has about them? Before that, I want you to tell people what marginalized children are actually.
Actually, when we talk about marginalized children, it actually means whenever the children they have some psychosocial adversities.
Right.
So they are in these two dimensions. One is related to their deprivation, and the second dimension is the threat.
Right.
So when we talk about deprivation, it may be related to some poor family. It
Right.
may be they may not have all the caregiving and the facilities which a child from a usual family would be there. So there may be a deprivation. On the other side, there can be those children who are facing a threat. The threat could be in the form of a community violence or an individual problem, an abuse, and neglect, which can be any form of an abuse. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be sexual.
I was actually going to ask you right after that. Are marginalized children more prone to exploitation?
I think yes, they are. It is because of their unique circumstances
Right.
that they are more prone, whether it is in the form of enough area where there's more deprivation or if they are exposed to threats. So I think from both the dimensions, they are likely to be more traumatized.
Right. How does early trauma or social marginalization shape a child's behavior in ways adults often mislabel as difficult or problematic? The minute you started, you said you used both the words, difficult and problematic.
Yes, I can tell you that whenever early trauma actually shapes up the behaviors of our children.
True.
So in case they have been exposed to early adversity, trauma, or even a toxic stress, that's how the child's mind is actually tuned for survival.
Right.
So what I can tell you that when you talk about these behaviors, I think early trauma shapes up the experiences, the neuronal circuitry of the brain of these children who have faced this adversity. So whenever I recall this from my foster child, whenever the children are there in childcare institutions,
Right.
in case we as some good Samaritans have gone with some goodies, some tips, some packets.
Right.
So if we have taken 20 packets, and in that home, if there are 30 or 40, then it's the survival aspect that whosoever grabs it first is going to have it.
Right.
So that's their survival.
Right.
And when he came home and he was trying to take everything for grabbing, so I was thinking, yeah, why? Why should he grab? Then gradually I had to tell, gentle, you have to be gentle. So what we try to understand these behaviors, we feel that they are probably inappropriate or punishable, whereas we don't understand the child's perspective.
True.
We don't see the back, how it has happened.
True.
They're signaling something, not for punishment, but for us to understand them.
Absolutely. True.
And when we talk about behaviors, the behaviors could be externalizing behaviors or they could be internalizing behaviors.
Right.
By that I mean that externalizing means that they're acting out.
Right. Right.
So they seem to be more problematic to people. Others are
And the
likely
ones
to
who
be
go
the quiet.
inwards, yes.
Yes. So if they're quiet, in that case,
But people usually like the quiet, no? The
They-
society likes the quiet because
Yes.
at least they're quiet.
yes, they're not disruptive. And somehow
Right.
they get missed.
Right.
What you need to understand is, even if they're quiet, that joy, that connect, that curiosity of a child, That's something which is missing in them.
True.
They may be overly compliant. नहीं ये सब बात मानता है, ये सब कुछ अच्छे से करता है. That's not what we want a child to be.
True, true. But we've been conditioned to think that the quiet is nice,
Yeah.
the obedient is nice, the one who's not asking questions is the best.
Yes.
We've been conditioned to believe that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad with times things have changed even for parents. Like I want my daughter would ask me 1,000 questions and I'm extremely happy about it. My husband sometimes says, Mera, where do you get these questions from? I said, I'm so glad because this shows a sign of two things. A, she's utilizing everything in her brain and, thinking beyond what she can express and see. And secondly, she's comfortable enough to ask her parents anything and everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to remind her, I said, I am only human and I'm not Chat GPT. And let mama come back with an answer. But I'm just I'm glad that change in society is now visible and parents are happy to see children who are naughty, children who are asking questions and children who are being difficult because then you're observing the behavior and trying to understand where is the difficulty coming from. So that shift has happened at least.
So what you rightly said, providing safe space to our children.
True.
And helping them with critical thinking, problem solving. And that's something which doesn't happen with children who are exposed to early trauma.
Right.
Their executive functioning
Right.
does get impaired.
Absolutely.
And because they are tuned to survival.
What will you say about, when we're talking about trauma, there are so many adults who are living with childhood trauma and who would never want to even, I don't know, this is my personal experience lately, that whenever we talk about trauma, there are a lot of people who would just want to dismiss the word trauma. Don't use trauma. Don't go backwards.
Yeah.
Don't go backwards. You should think positive. What kind of dismissal is this?
See, it brings back those old memories.
It is painful.
Those traumatic memories which are painful. So somehow they want to, that emotional numbing. They don't want that to be
But
asked.
it is essential for healing, right?
It is, yes.
And it
times
also shapes your behavior in
it
the
does
future.
because sometimes they have difficulty maintaining those attachments because they haven't had been exposed to secure attachments.
Right.
So they have trust issues.
Right.
It does shape their behavior. And that is why हम कहते हैं ना कि जो बच्चा है उसको जब कच्चा घड़ा है,
Yes.
that's the time we need to get all these things resolved.
Absolutely.
When they become adults, it becomes difficult to manage.
And the same thing, because you are dealing with a foster child, how do you think it's difficult for you? I'm sure because you haven't had that kacha ghada, You've
Yes.
had a child who's gone through a lot.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how difficult it is for you to then shape the child's behavior.
Actually, one thing which is important is, and we need to understand, our brain has a lot of plasticity.
Right.
You need to give them those positive experiences. I understand patience is required,
Right.
but it is doable. It is possible. So we can change how
With the kind of
brain is wired.
mindset you have, it is 100% possible. I agree. But you have to have that kind of mindset,
Yes.
no?
So our
And
brain
patience.
gets wired accordingly. So slow, but doable.
Perfect. What are some of the silent signs that tell us a child is carrying trauma, even when they are not able to express it in words?
That's what I told you, that they have these internalizing behaviors.
Right.
They will be depressed, they may not speak, they may be having some behaviors like some sleep disturbances, they may have bedwetting, they may be overly compliant. You tell them something, they will do that, exactly that. This would happen with many of my children when they were getting adopted. And they said कि पहले तो ये सारी बातें मानती थी, सारा कुछ वैसे ही करती थी. She would follow that structured ritual. And but after she has come, now she is on her own. She is questioning, she is asking, she is naughty. But that's how children had to be. They have to be like that. So overly compliant is not something could be wrong.
Right.
So it signals that there could be an issues because they have that missing joy.
Right.
That joy has to be reflected on their faces.
True.
It's not we want compliant children. We need to have, as you rightly said, questioning children,
Absolutely.
curious children.
Absolutely.
And that's what is childhood like.
and expressive children.
Yes.
I think when children are safe and in a space which they feel that we won't be judged,
Yes.
or we won't be screamed, or we won't be shouted at, we won't be told what to do, they are able to express their emotions
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
Versus an environment where they're constantly told that you always doing like this, you're behaving like this all the time,
Huh.
So then it becomes like a pattern for
Yes.
them to suppress those emotions, and then they grow up with those suppressed emotions.
Yeah.
And then I think that is problematic.
That's
The
problematic.
children are not problematic.
No. I
The
agree
adults
with
are
you.
problematic.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
At what age do you think children begin to feel excluded or less than? As in, if there's a child who's a marginalized child, and when they're out in the society, at what age do you think they would start feeling that, okay, I am not a fit in this place?
So, I would like to share that anecdote with me when I talked about these children who are marginalized or this. So, same example of my child who initially I thought it's the good school which shapes the children better. So, even if they are not able to go to a family, at least they should go to a good school.
Right.
So, I took help of some of the teachers and got him admitted to a good school. And from the childcare institution, he was going to that school. And then during that time, the COVID came. So initially, for a few months, he had gone to the school. The two school teachers were very kind. They were talking to him. They gave special meals to him. Some
Right.
things were done. So the teachers were quite kind and nice to him. However, after the COVID, and by that time he shifted to home in a family, so I packed his lunch, his favorite lunch for him, packed his bag, and sent with the hope that the world is going to be kind and he's going
Right.
to have his first day. So when he came back home, I asked him, "How was your school today?" He said, "Very good." And I go, "What?" "I am not a special child." I said, "What do you mean?" "I'm not special." He says, "Why do you say so? You are special for me." He says, "No, because today I did not get any special food from the class. My name was not called for that. I don't get hand-me-down books or uniforms. I was with other children." And that's what he signaled. He loved dignity. He didn't want to be singled. He liked to be ordinary. He didn't want those special things.
True.
And that's what matters to a child.
Right.
They want to be fitting in. They have to be inclusive. That's what
Absolutely.
schools are.
Absolutely.
They have to
Absolutely.
feel belongingness.
True.
And that's what I learned, the meaning of special from him.
Do you think it was a struggle to get your child admitted in a school?
Yes, it was. Because usually the schools would ask many questions. And when knowingly they know that the child has had a trauma, and to take that child with all those uncertainties was difficult. It required a school and a principal who was ready to accept a child with a known challenging behavior.
So you've known Kavita ma'am.
I've known Kavita ma'am, and she was the one who took the lead.
I'm so glad that Kavita ma'am is a part of GD Goenka. She is such a wonderful woman, and her personality, her thought process shapes so many people.
Yes.
Like she is just such a guiding
Amazing.
light for everybody.
Yes.
And I think principals, being the head of the family, if a principal has that kind of a thought process, it just shapes the entire new generation.
Yeah.
And how open they would be to do something that she has done. She did it when nobody did it.
When nobody did it.
So she's shaping the generations to do it much more often.
I totally agree with
Right?
that.
In your experience, what kind of adult responses truly help these children heal, especially in homes and classrooms?
I think when we talk about adults, they need to know something about trauma-informed care.
Right.
Then one is that they shouldn't be judging their children.
Right.
When they have particular behaviors, they have themselves to be calm and they have to be predictable.
Right.
They had been in environments, these children, where the responses of adults were unpredictable.
Right. True.
So when the teachers are there, they have to talk to them in a calm voice. They have to be dependable. they are testing the trust of the adults. So, what I want to say that for any child who has these adverse childhood experiences or traumatized, I think there is a need for having a single nurturant adult,
True.
which is important for them. You don't need a therapist or a healer or a pediatrician. It can be anyone,
Including the teacher.
including the teacher. Oh, Matilda में देखा था ना? So it's the teacher. Teacher has a great role. I think
True.
teachers play an important role, specifically if the children are coming from homes which have household dysfunction or an incarcerated relative or any of those issues. So there the teachers have an important role.
True. Which brings me to our next question. How can schools move beyond sympathy and create environments of dignity, safety, and genuine inclusion for special and marginalized children?
I think all the teachers, we need to understand a trauma-informed care.
True.
They need to see the why of the behaviors. They need to understand those behaviors. They don't have to directly consider these acting out behaviors. That's the child's way of crying out, "So all is not fine." There is something which is underneath it. They may have responded for something which may have been a very small trigger.
Right.
And if you feel that the response of the behavior is disproportionate, that actually means signals. He's signaling.
True.
Something is wrong. And the teachers need to understand.
And only if they are well trained to do
Yes,
so.
understanding them. In fact, one of the, we are soon starting a project on these children with adverse childhood experiences. And in that part of it, we have a provision of developing a module for training the teachers and the counselors, because there are children wherever they are working, and as early as possible, if the teachers understand it,
True.
I think they have a lot of potential in transforming the lives of our children.
Right. What role does patience and consistency play in helping traumatized children rebuild trust in adults?
Lots. So both patience and consistency. As I said, that they had come from the world which is chaotic,
Right.
where adults were unpredictable. So both have a major role in shaping the lives of these children.
Right.
So patience to this, I understand sometimes it can be difficult. So we need to have our own mechanisms to make sure that we are patient and consistent.
Right.
Nothing conditional. That's how the child is testing repeatedly.
So, because you have a foster child, how do you think other family members and other children, if somebody has their own children, how do the siblings get along? How do you teach your own child? You know, a child basically, not an adult. When we're talking of adult, we keep saying they need to understand and we can train them and they can observe behavior, but children cannot do that.
So I can just rate one anecdote. When my child was going to the academy, so there was one child who noted that our complexion is not matching. So he said, "ऐसे लगता है यार तू उनका adopted बच्चा है." So then he asked us. Actually, we believed in full disclosure, but we told him. I said, "You have to tell him that उनका adopted नहीं है, मतलब
You have
तूने adopt किया है हमको."
How beautiful.
So that's how satisfied the child. And see, there are all types of people. There are kind people as well.
Absolutely.
And I think he was one of the most favorite boy in the class who got invited for most birthday parties.
How sweet.
And after a few years, he has now settled and he said, "Okay, now I don't need any parties." That's the type which felt after 4 years, we were able to reach that stage. That going to all birthday parties, everything, and suddenly this child himself telling, "I don't need more."
Right.
So that was what
he got what he wanted.
he got. What, so initially,
And how
yes,
do siblings react to a foster child or an adopted child for that matter? And
Siblings-
especially the one coming from a marginalized background.
see, sibling, you have to prepare beforehand.
Right.
It can't be, you just can't impose on a sibling.
Is it a bigger struggle with siblings?
It depends.
Or is it easier to just have the child alone with yourself, and as a parent, it's easier to connect with that child?
See, again, all this whole story about adoption, fostering, is about love and disclosures.
True.
We need to disclose, we need to have everybody on board to understand whether it's family or a sibling. It just can't be imposed on anybody.
True.
So I think it's a story about love,
True.
and that's what is
Everybody's
important.
love. Everybody's.
Yeah, yeah.
The entire families, the
Yeah,
siblings.
yeah.
You know, beautiful.
And to feel that it is meaningful and a life which is fulfilling.
Absolutely, absolutely. If there's one message you wish every parent and educator would remember while working with such children, what would it be?
I think I would say many of the things we need can wait. To a child, we cannot answer that. His name is today. I think this is a famous quote by Gabriela Mistral, and it says that if the child needs anything, it has to be done today. Don't put it till tomorrow. We have to work on it. And it's a beautiful experience to have a child, to work on a child, and see that beautiful trajectory. Otherwise, the same child is the one where the society will repent. He's likely to get in conflict with law. He may have any more issues. So then also we will pay that price. The society will pay that price.
Right.
So it's worth working on a child. And if there's something which is there, don't wait till tomorrow. Work on it today itself.
True. True. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we had this conversation, and this will open a lot of doors for other people to look into it and maybe give it a thought. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was
Thank
such
you.
a pleasure.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast today. I'm so glad conversations like this are happening because they make a change in the society. If you like content like this, consider subscribing to our channel and watch out for what's coming next.